this important and wonderful book, The Case for Basic Income, Freedom, Security, and Justice. My name is Deirdre Pike, and I will be emceeing this event tonight. I'm a senior social planner with the Social Planning and Research Council of Hamilton, and I'm here tonight with my co-MC and friend, Mike Perry.
Good evening, everyone. Nice to see you all. I'm Mike Perry. It's an honor to be emceeing this evening's wonderful occasion with Deirdre Pike. I am a lawyer and social worker here in the Kawartha Lakes, just north of Toronto, and was able to help our community advocate to bring the basic income pilot project here to Lindsay, and then unfortunately had to lead the legal action against the Ford government when it was so prematurely canceled.
Right. We'll certainly be getting into all of that tonight, and we have a lot of great speakers and so on, but it's of course very important that we begin tonight with an acknowledgement of the land and of Mother Earth, who has wrapped herself around the 215 children found last week in Kamloops at a residential school site, and for whom we weep and remember. And I would like to share a poem from a Cree woman and journalist, Rosanna Deerchild. The second time. I ask Mama about residential school. She says no. I ask her again. She says no. The third time. I stop, listen to her silence. Ask about her diabetes, her hip, achy back, her sore knees. Did she get her hearing aid fixed? Whether she thinks it will rain tomorrow. Mama talks about all this. Says I'm not too good, my girl. My sugar is too high. Arthritis acting up. That damn doctor won't give me any more pain pills. This hearing aid is shit. And the rain hurts, my girl.
Container and I'll bring it back.
I listen to her talk.
I made a tea in it.
Backwards, slow.
Okay. Can I get my
Fill her cup with tea.
Thank you very much for that commemoration, Deirdre. And Tanishi, everyone. Many of our screens this evening, by which we're joining this book launch, are located on the traditional territory of the Dish with One Spoon Treaty. And that was a treaty between the Haudenosaunee and Anishinaabe peoples who bound themselves to share the territory and protect the land. And subsequent Indigenous nations and peoples and all newcomers, which is especially important, and in the Indigenous spirit and way, all newcomers are invited to share in the treaty and in its spirit of peace and friendship and respect. And I actually have a handmade replica of the Dish with One Spoon wampum belt. Of course, the original is much larger, but as you can see, the dish obviously in the center, and the spoon from which we all share, take from the land and care for one another. So we're all invited into that, to the spirit of that treaty today. And this is a seashell replica. And I wanted to make sure we could all see it as a visual as we hear the words of the land acknowledgement this evening. Deirdre.
Oh, there we are. Thank you, Mike. As we gathered now, we are going to move into our book launch, and and take a look at what has been created by Elaine Power and Jamie Swift to capture the story of basic income in Ontario and beyond, and the reason why we need to continue advocating for basic income, for wearing T-shirts that say basic income, and for writing letters to newspapers and holding vigils and writing the people who can make the decisions. And we have some people here tonight who have been involved in all of that kind of advocacy and have made such a difference in our communities and in our province. And we're going to hear from many of them tonight. Now, Mike, you made it into this book, eh? Apparently, like you were in the table of contents.
Yeah,
how many pages did you
apparently
get?
so.
Did you get a few pages or what?
Yeah, I'm not sure. So I've heard. I'm very honored to have been mentioned, and yeah, it's quite something. And I want to thank Elaine and Jamie, of course, for doing that. I'm not really sure what page I'm on, of course, Deirdre, but how about you? I'm sure you haven't looked or checked or really don't pay attention to these things.
Well, my mother actually read the book and was sure to tell me right away that it's page 70, 71, 72. So if anybody's looking, feel free to, she's here on her first webinar tonight with over 300 people have tuned in to find out how we can continue to advocate for something which we actually held for a short time in Ontario. I was certainly part, although in the book I'm considered a reluctant convert, but I was part of advocating for this and working for the basic income and continuing to work in that way in my role at the Planning Council. And Mike, you had a role in that as well.
Right. That's right.
In Lindsay and working with the people there. So it really is it's a privilege to have been part of something so important. And this thing that's so important was started by somebody who's with us tonight under the government of someone who led that government. Not alone would she ever even dream to say that herself. And that is former Premier of Ontario, current MPP for Don Valley West, Kathleen Wynne. And it was under her leadership and government that in 2017, the basic income began and checks began to roll out for just 1 year before the current government canceled the pilot. And that's why we're here tonight, to carry on this advocacy, to launch this book that tells the story, and to hear why this work is still so important. So I'd like now to turn it over to Kathleen Wynne. Thank you so much for being here tonight.
Thank you, Deirdre. Thank you. Thanks, everybody. So a couple of things. First of all, I'm on a lot of pages, Mike, and that can either be a bad thing or a good thing for a politician.
I'm sure Deirdre can tell you which ones per year.
Well, I can tell you, but it's a long list. I thought maybe Deirdre was going to test me because she asked me the other day, had I read the book? And I told her I hadn't read every word, but I'd read enough. And then the other thing, Deirdre, you're a reluctant convert. Well, I'm called a star candidate in this book, and I never was a star candidate. And I want this crowd to know that the party didn't want me in the first place in 2002. So I had to scrape and claw because they thought I was too left-wing. So there you go. It is really an honor to be part of this conversation tonight. There's a lot that I would like to say. I want to acknowledge all the people who I can see on the screen, but I know there's so many of you who I can't see who are listening, and just thank you for being interested in this subject and for taking the time to be part of this conversation. I want to really especially thank Jamie Swift and Elaine Power for writing this book. Yay, you guys. It's fabulous. It is so complete and your insights are so accurate. And I'll give you just an indication or an example of how I feel that you really got it. Because when you tell the story of how the decision is made, you give a really important role to James Gennaro, who I know is on tonight. And James was my policy advisor. Just a wonderful, wonderful young man. And you captured how our interaction moved the issue forward. You captured how he would come to me with a challenge and I would say, well, okay, then we got to find more money for this, or we've got to do it differently. And he was the interface between me and Hugh Siegel and Evelyn. And that's how government works. You know, I really think that politicians are I feel that I have tried and have been in my life an instrument of all the good thinking that goes on within government and in the community. And so there are people on this this call tonight who have had years of experience pushing for something like this, who have had years of experience trying to deal with poverty reduction. I came along in 2003 when I was elected, and I was part of a caucus that really wasn't focused on poverty reduction. Part of our women's caucus moved that issue forward. And then by the time I was premier, I was ready to say, we need to try something different. If we keep doing the same things, we're going to keep having the same lousy outcomes. And so that's why I wanted a pilot. You can say, why didn't we do it sooner? And you know, why didn't we get on it? And I will just say to you that I did my best to get to it as quickly as we could, to build a consensus within my caucus. And in fact, the timing was fortuitous when we look at what was going on in the world at the time. And I also think that totally without any control, of course, but the fact that we did the basic income pilot in Ontario, the fact that we have some of the anecdotal stories, the fact that we then were hit with COVID and we all saw how important it was. And Danielle Martin's foreword really points that out in this book, that, you know, the determinants of health are so critical. And we see with COVID the fissures in our society. And so it is really, really important to me that I say to all of you, thank you for continuing this conversation. There is some momentum because of all the confluence of factors, and it's very, very important that we continue to advocate. So I'm going to stop there and just say thank you for including me tonight, and I really look forward to the conversation. And if you want my page numbers, I've got them written down, Deirdre.
Well,
There's 16 of them. You know, we know that. So anyway, that's great. Thank you so much. Thanks for being here.
thank you, Premier, and
Yeah.
a personal thank you from the recipients, the participants here in Lindsay, Ontario, for selecting Lindsay as one of the pilot locations. Thank you for your work and your fight and your commitment to this. And you know, tonight really is a celebration of this book, you know, and a celebration of basic income. We have over 200 people tuning in for a book launch by COVID on Zoom on a Thursday evening. And I think that really shows the quality of the book, the passion for the issue, and also the draw and the commitment of all the people involved on the panel and speaking tonight. So, you know, Premier, you talked about moving the issue forward and fighting with resolve. And, you know, it's very relevant that our next guest is going to say a few words. She is the NDP MP for Winnipeg Centre. She was first elected in 2019, Leah Gazan. She is the NDP critic for Children, Families and Social Development and the deputy critic for Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship. She was actually named recently Maclean's 2021 Power List. And she's here with us tonight, folks. She's been an advisor, deeply committed and rooted in organizing and social issues in Winnipeg's core for almost 40 years before she was elected to Parliament. And she's done work with the Social Planning Council there, Idle No More, and the We Care campaign. She is a member of the Wood Mountain Lakota Nation, located in Saskatchewan Treaty 4. Everyone, please help me welcome Leah Gazan. And very, very, very important, she's on page 175 of Jamie and Elaine's book.
Thank you so much for having me here today. It's a real privilege and honor. I just want to start out by letting you know that I'm coming to you today from Treaty 1 territory, home of the Anishinaabe, Cree, Oji, Cree, Dakota, and Dene peoples, and homeland of the Métis Nation. I also am a visitor, as Mike mentioned. I actually come from Treaty 4 territory in Saskatchewan, and I want to extend a very, very warm congratulations for your book, Jamie Swift and Elaine Power. Such a great work, The Case for Basic Income, Freedom, Security, and Justice. And I also want to make mention of the over 4,000 courageous individuals who participated in the basic income study that was unfortunately cut by the current Ford government. There is no reason, there is no justification that people in a country as rich in Canada, in a country that puts billions of dollars bailing out corporations, buying pipelines, that there should be anybody, no matter who you are or where you come from, that lives in poverty in Canada. That's one of the reasons why I put forward a motion, motion 46, which ended up being brought down through unanimous consent by all parties, except for the New Democratic Party and a couple of members of the Green Party. I don't want to spend my time talking about the motion. I'm here to celebrate with both Jamie and Elaine today. But here's what I have to say, that any sort of basic income program must be in addition to current and future government programs and support. It must be available to all persons over the age of 18, regardless of residency status, students, seniors, refugees, migrant workers. We need to ensure that everybody in this country can live with human rights and dignity. And that's why the work of Elaine and Jamie is so important. That's why, as a longtime academic, documenting these stories, documenting the importance of guaranteed income programs is a critical step in pushing the movement forward. I always say, this is not offering up anything new. We have income guarantees in Canada already. OAS is an example. EI is an example of an income guarantee not livable. What I think we need to do, and certainly along with guidance, under the guidance of Basic Income Canada and Basic Income Manitoba, we need to top those income guarantees up and extend them out. I currently represent the third poorest riding in this country. I'm a longtime poverty advocate. We had people literally freezing to death in bus shacks over the winter. It gets so cold in Winnipeg. We literally, as you know, have so many people who are unsheltered, more heightened for Indigenous people, certainly in the province where I'm from, the city where I'm from, where 70% of individuals that are in need of core housing need are Indigenous peoples and their families. The poverty is targeted. The poverty is targeted. We know Indigenous peoples and BIPOC peoples have been some of the hardest hit by the pandemic. Temporary foreign migrant workers left to perish because of poor working conditions. And we have the power to change that. We just need political will. So I'm here to say this, the motion might have been shot down, but I'm not gonna stop. I will not stop until human rights and dignity are realized for all. And I join the efforts of all people in Basic Income Canada, Basic Income Manitoba, and all the advocates fighting for a basic, livable, guaranteed income in this country. I join your efforts, and let's keep the movement going.
Oh, the things we miss without with Zoom, the applause that you would hear and the applause we would have heard too for first speaker. Thank you very, very much for your commitment to that issue. At a federal level, it's so important and so appreciated. I had changed my virtual background because here's somebody who was on basic income who can't be with us tonight, Tim Button. Not everybody has access to computers, but he definitely wanted to say hello to Kathleen and all the speakers tonight that he's met at other forums and he looks forward to being in person again. Now we are really lucky to have the publisher of the book, Between the Lines, has agreed to give us some copies to give away tonight. And so we're going to run a little poll now, and participants here tonight, which by the way, Mike, it's actually 300. You were just about 100 short there, 300 people who have joined.
Even better. That's fantastic.
I mean, I see
Numbers on my
217. You're
screen.
right. There's over 200 on tonight, but over 300 registered. And so the ones who are here tonight get the chance to win a book. And you get to do that if you know the answer to this question. And I'll ask the question, and then a poll will come up, and you'll have some time to put your answer in. So the first question is, and there was a clue earlier, who wrote the foreword for the case for basic income? Freedom, security, justice. Who wrote the foreword for this book?
Did write the foreword. Deirdre?
Was it you? Did you get asked to do it? I didn't.
Daniel Martin.
All right. So it might be a trick question because not everybody maybe has received the book yet, but it was named earlier. And we're just tallying the results. And as we do so, of course, we remember Alex Trebek, who could run a trivia contest as well as he did. So, but we do have some skill testing questions tonight, eh, Mike?
We'll see who's on the ball tonight, Deirdre. The trivia aficionados, or those who have a copy in front of them, able to win the prize on the line. There, Tracy Mashevsky has hers.
Good. Some of the questions, they don't have to do with how many times we were in the book. It's not all about that, because we don't want to make it a competition. Because
How many times were you in the book, actually, Deirdre? I don't know if you.
I think I already told you, Mike, and see, already you didn't write down pages 70, 71, 72. It's unfortunate. You might miss some.
Deirdre, how many was I in? Just having trouble remembering.
Yeah. I think
Yeah.
it was 7, like 7. All right, we
Just
must have a
saying.
winner.
Just saying.
Cut Mike off, please. Could you mute him? He's bragging. I'd like to know who has
No
bragging
problem.
rights
I'll
to
just
the
talk.
first-
I'll just talk over him. It's Marley Neukoff. Congratulations. You have won free copy of the book. Please stay around so I can get your information via the chat window where we will be mailing this book. So congratulations.
Yeah. All right, Marley, throw your address in there to Craig Pickthorn. That's our tech person tonight. And we'll make sure that a copy gets out in the mail to you. People are not just here from Hamilton and Lindsay and Thunder Bay, where the pilot was. Of course, there are people from, really across Turtle Island. I saw some names even from the UK that had joined us tonight. So please go ahead and throw your location in the chat room if you want to. Maybe there'll be a prize for who traveled the furthest over Zoom. Now, without further ado, as they say, we would like to hear from the authors tonight. Jamie Swift calls himself sardonic, and calls his co-author, the pleasant morning person, who was actually on Hamilton's CHCH Morning Live this morning. Elaine Power was waking up Hamilton with another speaker we'll hear from later, Alana Baltzar, along with Kathleen Wynne. So now I would like to have the spotlight head on over to these two great authors tonight who have brought so much to this conversation with this book. Jamie Swift, Elaine Power. Welcome.
Yay.
Thank you so much, Deirdre and Mike and Tom Cooper for organizing this incredible, it feels like a party. And it's just such an honor to have so many people, so many on the panel and so many people from all across Turtle Island and apparently across the pond too. So thank you so much. I think this is where we would all be applauding if we were live. Yeah. I think next time I have a party, I'll get them to come and do the organizing for me. The book, as a few people have already said, is dedicated to the 4,000 courageous people who took a chance on the Ontario basic income pilot and whose good faith hopes were shattered when a progressive Ontario government arbitrarily and prematurely canceled it. The book
I thought that was progressive conservative, Elaine.
What did I say?
You
I
said
said
that Doug
progressive.
Ford was a progressive.
Oh, yeah, no, I didn't mean that. Thanks, Jamie. Progressive conservative. Yes. I remember, I'll never forget the moment when I learned that the pilot was canceled. It was a tweet from Tom Cooper, actually, that notified me, and I could hardly believe it. And it's seared into my memory that day. And I spent many days enraged. It was such a travesty and such a betrayal of those good faith hopes of the pilot participants. In 2008, the World Health Organization Commission on the Social Determinants of Health declared that health inequalities are killing people on a grand scale. And just a few days ago in the Globe and Mail, a professor from McGill University, Anna Tina Banerjee, said that we're on the brink of a catastrophic moral failure in reference to the gross disparity in global vaccine access. We know that inequalities kill people. We know that poverty kills people. And that's why we're so motivated to continue the fight for basic income. The book really tells the stories of some of the people who were on the pilot. And it feels in a way that, although Jamie and I are the authors, that we're just the midwives to get this book into the world. And in fact, so many of you here are part of this book. And so it feels like a real collective effort that we were just the ones who brought it into the world. And we're so thankful and so grateful to everyone for your part in that. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to my co-author.
Thanks, Elaine, and thanks to the folks who were kind enough and generous enough to organize this session for us. I'm going to talk a bit about Hamilton. I visited Hamilton a half dozen times while working on our book. I want to thank Ruth and Dawn for putting me up. And of course, I want to thank everyone who was so helpful in explaining how basic income had changed things in a way that the McMaster researchers who studied the partial results after the government canceled it called transformational. And that was the conclusion of a survey that they did of quite a few basic income recipients conducted, as I said, after the Ford government canceled the pilot. Now, with respect to the Ford government, I always have to be quite careful to suggest to my co-author that she not say rude things about the government of Ontario today. I know her parents are probably listening in from Cape Breton and they wouldn't want Elaine to say rude things. And I have heard her say these rude things. So
I say rude things about Doug Ford often. And I think my parents understand why.
Okay, so that aside, no rude things will be said, at least in this context. I just want to mention two of the many things that I learned in Hamilton. I visited Hamilton's North End Labor Museum, the Workers' Arts and Heritage Center. It's in the old Customs House in the North End of Hamilton. It's a vital institution, but as one can guess, like many such worker institutions, it's woefully underfunded. Inside, there's one labor history panel. featuring a huge photo of mass rally in Hamilton in 1946 during the monumental and victorious strike against Stelco. And the words of the worker, steelworker Reg Gardner, run in an arc over this dramatic image. And Gardner is quoted as saying, "I feel it yet, the feeling of freedom that we all felt by breaking the hold that Stelco had on us." And I thought that was very evocative of the place and the time, and again of today in Hamilton and other parts of the country where people are striving to be free from poverty in one of the world's richest places. Freedom appears in our book's subtitle. And Elaine and I recognize that basic income has the potential to liberate people from a system that is a catastrophic failure. Basic income combined with measures like tax reform, tax fairness, and affordable housing or housing people. Leah Gazan mentioned that so many people are unsheltered. That's an example of market failure. So what Elaine and I have tried to do in this book is emphasize, as Leah did, that we do not see basic income as any sort of a silver bullet or a measure that's going to cure all of Canada's ills or social ills. Far from it. What we see it as is a vital and necessary but insufficient measure. It's not a silver bullet. And many critics on the left have denounced basic income by caricaturing it as a silver bullet, that those of us who support basic income think it'll be that big solution. That's not true. What we think is that basic income has the potential to break with the cruel logic of work or starve that animates the labor market, the essence of wage labor. And my own support for basic income, I guess it goes back to a 1997 country music song by Johnny Paycheck, "Take this job and shove it." So I think that we think about people getting a basic income, a basic livable income. They're not totally dependent on some awful job that is on offer there at a wage that's sub-poverty. Elaine and I have seen Hamilton, and it seems to be a sort of a petri dish for deregulated capitalism. Thanks to the Hamilton Spectator's Steve Buist's exceptionally fine reporting, we learned that the life expectancy on a street in Hamilton called Upper Paradise Road, I'm not making this up, it was in the paper, so it must be true. If you live on Upper Paradise Road, your life expectancy is 86 years. And on hardscrabble Wellington Street North in the city center, your average life expectancy is 65 years. So that's 21 years difference in a very small geographical area. So if you're on Wellington Street, your life expectancy is less than if you were living in Turkmenistan. And that's what the spec pointed out. So in Hamilton, the savage inequalities are there. They're as sharp as you could cut them. They cast a harsh light on the social determinants of health that have been mentioned already. And I'll pass it over to Elaine because my friend, the professor, has been studying this, social determinants of health, for so very long. And I've heard her declaim, I won't say endlessly, but certainly at length about the social determinants of health. So Elaine.
Thanks, Jamie. I think our wonderful editor cut that quote out of the Johnny Paycheck, "Take this job and shove it." I think
that's a terrible thing for an editor to do, and I think the editor's on the call on the webinar, and he should be castigated vigorously.
I think that was in an earlier version of the book. Anyway, I just want to, before I talk more about the social determinants of health, I can talk about those almost as long as I can talk about basic income, which is a very long time. But I just wanted to say two things. First of all, the first winner of the prize book is a former student of mine who came to tonight. So I'm really delighted about that. And my sister's here from Cape Breton too. So Yeah, it feels like a party. So then to go to the social determinants of health, from 15 years, I taught for introductory class at Queen's on the social determinants of health. It's still called Health 101. And these first year students would come to Queen's, and I think they, Health 101, they thought they were going to get diet and exercise and smoking. And instead they got poverty and homelessness and colonialism and how that impacts people's health. I've literally taught thousands of young people now about the social determinants of health. And I hope that is also part of the push that is represented here tonight for basic income, to create the conditions in which everyone has the opportunity to thrive, and where those, as Jamie puts it, those savage health inequalities disappear, so that everybody, when they come into the world, has the same chances at health and a long life. For me, those of you who know me won't be surprised that to me, the key sign of an effective anti-poverty strategy is that food banks would be able to finally close up and go away. When they started 40 years ago, this is the 40th anniversary of the first food bank in Canada, which began in Edmonton in 1981. They thought they were going to be temporary. They thought that, there was an economic downturn, and Canadians don't like to imagine that their neighbors might be hungry. I think part of what our job is now is to help them in public health terms think upstream, not to donate to food banks necessarily, or maybe donate to food banks and put the political pressure on for a basic income, so that the people who started food banks way back in the 80s, who in all good faith and with very good hearts thought that they were going to be temporary, and that the government would step in when the and that the economy would recover, that we would take care of each other through public policy again. I think we owe them the opportunity for them to actually do what they thought they were going to do when they first started. So to me, basic income is the upstream solution. Instead of handing people bags of food that doesn't actually meet their needs, that they have the dignity and the freedom to buy the food that they need. So Jamie knows I can rant about this for a long time, so I'm going to stop now.
Okay, we were going to talk a bit about how this book came to be. Elaine and I have been members of a Kingston group, the Kingston Action Group for a Basic Income Guarantee, for 7 or 8 years now, Elaine. This group, small group of people, maybe a dozen of us, have been meeting on and off for that long, and we've had some small successes. We managed to get the Kingston City Council, which is, shall we say, an ideologically diverse crowd, to unanimously back basic income. Now, the cynics will say, well, it's easy for a municipal politician to vote for something because they don't have to spend any money, and it sounds good, which is true, but as the politicians in the room will know, symbolism is important in politics. So we took that as one small step forward, and just before the plague, as I call it, began, the Kingston, Frontenac, Lennox, and Addington Public Health Unit also voted unanimously to support basic income. Subsequent to that, Dr. Kieran Moore, who's become something of a celebrity here in Ontario anyway, because his approach was effective as opposed to that of certain people who shall at this point remain nameless. He was an early backer of basic income. So our Kingston group, we've been out in the public market handing out cards and writing letters and hooking up with and lobbying James Gennaro, who Kathleen mentioned was instrumental in bringing the basic income to Ontario. So one of our members, Roberta Hamilton, met with James, and we like to tell ourselves we did a little bit to push that wet noodle up the hill with respect to Ontario politics. Elaine was going to say something about how she and I met because I forgot. Being of a certain age, I'm allowed to forget now increasing numbers of things. So maybe I'll kick it over to Elaine.
Yeah, I guess it was more memorable for me than for you, Jamie. When I first came to Kingston in 2004, I was trying to find a way to get connected with people who were doing anti-poverty work. And I had a copy of a book by a group of faith communities in Ontario, the ISARC folks, who and Sister Pauline Lawley was named in that book as one of the people in Kingston. She's a member of the Sisters of Providence here in Kingston. And so I phoned up the sisters and they said, oh, Jamie's working now on social justice issues in Kingston. So I phoned him up and we had lunch, and he commented that he took it as a good sign that I reached out to him. So it's been almost 17 years now, Jamie.
So it's easy to forget, I guess.
Yeah.
Been that long.
It was a memorable lunch.
Yeah. One of the
At least you made a big impression on me, Jamie.
One of the things I've noticed in the last few books I've done, it's always been in collaboration with other people. And I've come to realize that some people who've tried to make a living at writing know that it's a rather socially isolated undertaking. So when you have somebody with whom you're working, you're able to bat ideas back and forth, and it really brings something that I've always felt is really, really important to the work of writing. So it's collaborative, and it's in a way collective, non-individualistic in the best sense of the word. So I think that says something anyway.
So I just wanted to make a note that Bob put a note in the chat that actually the Johnny Paycheck quote is in the book. I've kind of lost the page. I think I said 176. Sorry, Bob, I lost it.
Okay, so I inadvertently denounced the editors.
Yeah.
So I apologize profusely and tug of the remaining forelock.
And Tom wants Mike to tell the story about the Kawartha ice cream, which I think is a really good story to tell. I don't know, maybe Kathleen Wynne could say, or maybe James could say how much impact it had. But Mike, why don't you tell that story?
Sure, just really briefly. It was actually a rainy old day on the 401. Packing a few of us in here from Lindsay to drive down because we got the call. We got to meet with the Premier's policy advisor, James Gierno, who's on the call today, to advocate for Lindsay being picked as an Ontario pilot. So of course, being from Kawartha Lakes, not to be outdone, we know we have to have a sweetener, right? We can give our spiel. We had a nice case for support as to why we should be selected as one of the communities for the pilot. But all that stuff aside, I gotta think it was Moose Tracks, actually, Kawartha Dairy Ice Cream, that we presented to James. And in the interest of full disclosure, then therefore promised him a lifelong free supply of Kawartha Dairy Ice Cream should Lindsay and Kawartha Lakes be selected. So apologies to Kingston and Peterborough and Cobourg and Ottawa, but we had to do something to get the leg up. So that's the story, and we'll see if you, Premier, or James, can tell us if it actually worked.
Well, so just for the record, James, I didn't get any of that ice cream. So I went for Lindsay without the sweetener. There you go.
Thank you.
James, you're fired.
Yeah. James, you owe me an ice cream.
Well, now I know how Mike got 7 pages in the book. Anyway, back to the authors.
Works like a charm.
Well, I think that we've probably taken up enough time. There's lots of other folks who have been allocated probably far too little time. So I'll hand it over to Deirdre and Mike to continue this. So again, thank you folks for And when I say the word folks, I do sound like Premier Ford, so I try to banish that four-letter F word whenever possible.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thanks, both of you, for giving us a good reason to have a party in Hamilton. And look, even over Zoom, we seem to do a pretty good job at that. So much appreciated for giving us this opportunity and for telling so many great Hamilton stories. And now I want to pass it over to the co-chair of Hamilton's Basic Income Network, and that's Lisa Alfano. Lisa.
Hi, everyone. I also teach at Mohawk College. And what I got to see was the transformative power of basic income on students. And I had several students who were on the basic income pilot. And it was really a privilege to see how they changed and how they grew when they had that little bit of a leg up. So on behalf of my co-chair, Jeffrey Martin, and also the entire Basic Income Hamilton team, we want to extend our sincere congratulations to Jamie and Elaine. And what is really fantastic about this book, of course, as we've been discussing this evening, is the stories of the pilot participants. They're very powerful and very convincing. So thank you, Elaine and Jamie, for giving the pilot participants a chance to affect the hearts and minds of others through this wonderful and very important book. Also, I also would like to introduce an artist who does also have the gift of sharing stories through music. Her name is Dana Wiley, and her music is thought-provoking and joyful, and it has earned her a Canadian Folk Music Award nomination. Dana became interested in the basic income movement last year, and she quickly got to work. She organized a successful rally in Edmonton for Basic Income Week, and you can learn more about Dana in the chat. Dana has done her best to join us this evening while also juggling some motherly duties. So the following performance has been pre-recorded. It is my genuine pleasure to introduce Dana Wiley performing her beautiful song, Cry Out.
Hi, my name is Dana Wiley, and I am a musician from Edmonton, Alberta. I'm honored to be asked to share a song as part of this event. And I'm going to share a song with you called Cry Out, which is from my most recent album. And the song is an attestation, I think, for the importance of the expression of vulnerability and the power and empowerment that can come from that expression when there's a safe space for it. And in the context of this event, I'd like to dedicate it particularly to the participants of the Ontario Basic Income pilot, which was cancelled. So many of you have become such strong advocates for this movement since the cancellation of the pilot, and I think that speaks to your bravery and your vulnerability, as vulnerable as you were made when it was cancelled so suddenly and I would think so cruelly. And I also, just with the timing of this, I think I'd be remiss not to also dedicate this song to the spirits of the 215 children whose bodies were detected under the Kamloops Residential School. I suppose it's a reminder for us that we have a legacy in this country of very much not taking care of our most vulnerable people. And basic income is one way that we can begin to live out a world where we take care of everybody, So here's Cry Out. Holder of worlds, servant of peace, let yourself cry out. 'Cause you are justified and you are beautiful. You can fall apart. I don't mind. I don't mind. The stars They are singing through you the sweetest lullaby. So holder of words, weaver of song, let yourself cry out. Maker of sun, seeker of moon, let yourself fall down. Just let the waves crash around you. You don't have to hold your ground. Hold your ground. 'Cause you know she's gonna hold you. She will make you ready. She will make you full. Marker of words, maker of worlds, let yourself fall down. Flow down the river of your tears till you get to somewhere new. May as well let the current take you, 'cause that is what it's gonna do. Holder of worlds, servant of peace, let yourself cry out. 'Cause you were justified, and you were beautiful. You can fall apart, I don't mind. I don't mind. The wind is already carrying your cries. They are healing wounds we've ripped into the sky. So marker of words, maker of worlds, holder of worlds, servant of peace, let yourself cry out. Let yourself cry out. Let yourself cry out. Thank you.
Thank you, Dana Wiley. Thank you very much for that beautiful piece of music. And I am going to introduce our next speaker. We now, value so much the voices of experience, and so do the authors of this book who dedicated the book to the basic income participants. And so we're going to hear from some of them now. And the first one up, in fact, I'd say it's not an understatement to say it's because of basic income she's not here tonight. Alana is working. The confidence, the improved mental health that she experienced on basic income allowed her to apply for and get a job. So she's at the vaccination center tonight. But here, through the magic of video, is Alana Baltzar, Hamilton BI participant.
Hi, my name is Lana Balzer. I'm a former basic income pilot participant for the Hamilton area project. I'm sorry I'm not able to be there today, but I hope this little video helps. So I just wanted to first thank Jamie Swift and Elaine Power for writing this book. This book really does make an excellent case for basic income and why it needs to be implemented and not have the government drag their feet on it. Anyways, so I was on ODSP prior to the basic income pilot, and being on ODSP meant I could barely survive. Most days were spent just making sure I had my day-to-day needs met. And my grocery bill at the time was about $50 a month because that was all I could afford for groceries after bills. No one should have to live a life of daily struggle, of depression of wondering if perhaps suicide's the best option simply because you can't afford to live. Now, the basic income pilot was announced and I did apply for it. It did take me some convincing because I was a bit cynical. However, it changed my life for the better. I was, for the first time in my life, I was able, and I know I've talked about this a lot, but it's still quite impactful for me, is that I was able to buy my own coat, my very first winter coat. It was incredibly warm, water resistant. I loved that coat, and I am still sad that that coat only lasted 2 winters. And then the other thing I was able to do was apply for college. I did get a letter back, unfortunately, because it came after the cancellation. I threw it out. I don't know what was said in it. And I was able to purchase a new pair of glasses, and it was amazing to have my own choice in doing that. So I hope this helps, and I would like to also thank Kathleen Wynne and the Liberals for making this happen.
Great. Thank you to Alana Baltzer, and someone who is here in real virtual time is Lance Dingman. I know he only lives a few blocks from me, but I haven't been able to see him in real life for a while. But Lance Dingman, another Hamilton basic income participant, who also happens to garner many, many pages of the book. I think it was like 22. I think he's the winner. Lance Dingman, you're up next, my friend. Craig, can we spotlight Lance? There we go.
Hi, everyone. Well, I'm very proud to be included in this book about basic income pilot in Hamilton. The author, Swift and Power, did a great job in this book. It's very thoughtful, and they really captured all my humble hurdles and barriers, plus how I've always tried to improve myself and live my life with hope.
Fantastic. Thanks so much, Lance, for your bravery participating in the program. And I know, Deirdre, it's back to Lindsay now, back to Kawartha Lakes. And I got to say, I like Elaine's analogy, her description that we're having a party, because what are parties about? People. And yes, we're at a book launch, and it's a great, fantastic book and contribution. But I'm really struck by the coming together of so many people. Political leaders, authors, scholars, participants, advocates. And one of those people I'm really, really proud to introduce, my friend Tracy Mashevsky. Got to say, she's one of my heroes. She was one of the 4 who we called the Brave Davids, who took up legal action against the cancellation by the Ford government in solidarity with the other 4,000 brave participants. And Tracy, it's just great to have you here, and look forward to hearing what you have to say. Thank you for being here. You're such a strong, brave woman. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks everyone for having me here tonight. I really appreciate it. Like Mike said, I was an Ontario Basic Income participant, and then I signed on as a primary plaintiff for the lawsuit against the Ford government. We are still moving ahead as far as I know. It was not a great outcome with the first or second attempt, but I haven't lost hope. Thank you to all the other participants that are here tonight that backed us, that sent messages of encouragement over the last little while. And to Elaine and Jamie, thank you so much for your years of research into this book and your ongoing commitment to awareness and action for poverty reduction, food security, and justice. Thank you also to all of the panel who has been instrumental. I learned so much about all the work that all of you have done because you were in this book. What struck me most was Jamie and Elaine's genuine care for the people they interviewed and the willingness to hear and document the truths of people's suffering at the hands of a callous government. So again, thank you to everyone for all of your hard work, and thanks for having me.
Thanks so much, Tracy, and thanks for your commitment. And you talked one thing that Tracy was able to build her home small business while the pilot program was ongoing. And speaking of small business and the basic income, someone who also used that money to build their local business, Luis Segura. Luis, are you here on the call? I live just up the street actually from Luis's Runaway Success business. If you're in the area, be sure and stop by Fresh Fuel for smoothies, fresh wraps. You can't beat it. Luis said he'd join us around now. I'm just seeing if he's
here,
able
Mike.
to get through. There he is. Hola, amigo. ¿Qué tal?
Muy bien, muy bien. How is everyone?
Tell us about basic income and your experience briefly, and thank you for participating in the program.
Well, first of all, thank you guys for having me, and thank you for having this opportunity that we can all be together. The authors, thank you guys for giving life to the stories of all the participants, and I think my experience with it, I always said that it's not so much a numbers reflection, but like the people, the impact it had on people in real time that we could see coming in and out of the store, and in ourselves, right? So you giving life to these stories, it makes it real, and it it shows the government or people who are weary about basic income that we're more than just numbers. These are real people with real stories, who had real situations, and real hurdles. Our experience, was wonderful up until the cancellation, of course. But like Mike said, we utilize that money to offset our expenses with home and be able to fast track our business, and we are a success story, you could say. Is here we are 6 years later in business and booming, despite a pandemic, growing, and and it's been incredible. So again, thank you guys for giving our stories life. Thank you.
Thank you, Luis, and for being such an outspoken public advocate, telling your story. You can't get near Fresh Fuel, just so you know. The lineup is around the block, not just because of COVID. And for those of you who are wondering, yes, in Lindsay, Ontario here, we have done a full-scale replica of the Golden Gate Bridge. So that really is that's an accurate portrayal of
the Scugog River back there.
That's right. The Scugog River has just been enhanced. It's quite something. You'll have to come up and see it. Deirdre, over to you.
Yeah. Geez, I can't wait to get up there again. That's quite the view. Now there's somebody joining us tonight from just down the road in Toronto, and that is longtime poverty activist Josephine Gray, who warranted 10 pages in the book, but really you need far more than that to tell the life of this activist, since the 80s, St. Jamestown, and how it is worded in the book is Josephine Gray, whose strong voice of advocacy for basic income was informed by her life story. And you have maybe already seen her chatting away in the chat room tonight, filling our, that's good. I love the input that you provide. And thank you so much for being here tonight, Josephine.
Thank you so much. I just want to say it's such a pleasure to be with everybody. We struggle in our little corners, different parts of the province and different parts of the country. And sometimes we forget just how many of us have been connected in this work for so long. And it's really good, particularly today, for me to join this and be reminded that there is such a strong network of wonderful, amazing, courageous people. And, I was brought back to the heartbreak of the cancellation of the pilot, after decades of struggling towards that victory. It was unbelievably painful. And it brings to mind, the current situation that my neighborhood is dealing with, where, we have 23,000 people crammed into a concrete jungle, all sorts of overdose deaths, suicides, et cetera, and we're struggling to feed as many families as we can. And there's no money from the provincial government. There's $6 billion of COVID funding that's just being held, and it's going nowhere. And they're trying to, push a highway through the rest of our remaining farmland. Like, it's just, you know, their cancellation of the pilot was an early indication of more horrible times to come, and we're certainly not out of the dark yet. But I do take heart from the fact that we have so much strength and perseverance and courage, and we do not give up. And I'm so grateful for this book and all the work that went into it. I really look forward to reading it. And like, all I can say is, you know, NABIG's coming up. There's going to be a basic income conference. You know, let's keep it going. Like, it's becoming more and more of a critical mass towards finally, I think, getting some traction on this issue. And, you know, the fact that they realized that people need $2,000 a month to get by on CERB was pretty telling. And I wonder if there's maybe even a legal challenge in that. It's like, why do you think some people can get by on $700 a month and then other people are worth $2,000 a month? What's that about? Interesting. So all I can say is I'm heartened and encouraged that we're all still here, that we've come together tonight, and very grateful to the organizers. And it's online and it's being organized by the Americans. Somebody asked, where's the Basic Income Conference? If you go to Basic Income Canada Network, you can see information about it. And yeah, just keep building the momentum. That will be another opportunity, and there will be more. And, you know, as soon as we can get out of lockdown and get back out there and activating and agitating, you know, let's just keep the struggle moving forward. And thanks so much, everybody, for being here.
Thanks so much, Josephine, and thank you for your words and being here this evening. Let's keep this kind of speed round part of the party going. You really can't talk basic income in Canada without talking about Evelyn Forget, who, you know, is a living legend of basic income and basic income research in Canada, renowned for the originator. They say James Brown was the originator of funk. Well, Evelyn is the originator of basic income research from the MinCom experiment in the 70s, finding all those boxes of data and being able to work with them and producing the first study in Canada. She's an economist, an advocate, and a professor at the School of Medicine at the University of Manitoba. As I said, please, the famous Evelyn Forget, proud to be a colleague. Evelyn.
What a great introduction, and what a great party. I am delighted. I am so privileged to be joining you today from Treaty 1 territory in Winnipeg. And what I really liked about this book is that it's such a celebration of community. The book draws together all of the participants, the advocates, the politicians, everybody who was involved in making the basic income pilot itself a reality, are documented in that book. It's a wonderful, wonderful piece of work. So congratulations, Jamie. Congratulations, Elaine. I am delighted to be part of this. Thank you.
Thank you. Someone who also isn't here tonight, can't be here tonight because Michael Hampson was a basic income participant. Change my virtual screen to show him and talking about how basic income changed his life. But Michael died this last year in 2020, and really was another person whose life really told the truth about basic income, the kind of support and the way that he could participate in life more fully because of the income security that he had. So we also hold up Michael's life tonight and do this. I know his sister is here tonight as well. And now I would like to introduce Senator Kim Pate, another strong advocate who, with Senator Francis Lankin, convinced the majority of their colleagues to sign a letter to the Prime Minister advocating for basic income. And she continues to be a voice in this way. And I'm pleased that she is with us tonight. Senator Pate.
Oh, it's an honor to have been invited, Deirdre. Thank you. And thank you for this incredible book, adding to the massive amount of data that already exists to show why we should be implementing a basic income. And I come to you from the unceded, unsurrendered territory of the Algonquin Anishinaabe tonight. And many of you know that the entire reason that I agreed to have my name stand for the Senate in the first place when people approached me was the work I'd been doing for about 4 decades with some of the most marginalized, victimized, criminalized, and institutionalized men, women, and young people, it was very clear that most of them were there because they started out with us in states of economic deprivation. Many of them raised by single moms on social assistance, many of them in the child welfare system, many of them with past trauma that they were left to anesthetize themselves with. And so all of that it was very clear that what we need is a system that builds up the social, economic, and health safety nets in this country, and guaranteed livable income from my perspective is integral to that. And I am just so grateful to all of you for this. And yeah, I think there are a lot of senators and members of parliament and obviously people throughout the country who support this. And so we're keep plugging away. My biggest disappointment is it wasn't in the budget, but hey, unless I cark it, I've got at least another decade or more to almost 15 years to work on this. So thank you, everybody. And thank you, Deirdre, for inviting me.
Great. Thanks for being here. Now, do you happen to have your agenda in front of you so that you know the next, the trivia question, Senator Pate, or not? I was hoping you might ask the question, but I don't think you have it. Do you? Nope.
No, I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay.
This up.
Nope, that's all right. We're going to go back
to
Elaine Power because I skipped your question anyway. Yeah. And we're going to play the music while you answer the questions, the next 3 questions that we have for you, audience. But we're going to hold off on announcing the winners till the end because it takes a little time to go through and figure out who answered first. It's science, it takes some time to do it right. So Elaine, back to your question, number 2.
Number 2. So you want me to do number 2?
Mm-hmm. And
okay.
Then you'll do number 3.
Okay. And I'm not supposed to give away the answer, am I?
Mm-mm.
Okay. So the question is, which province has support from all 4 political parties to mount a provincial basic income?
Mr. Music. Okay, people are putting answers in the chat room instead of the poll, but either way, I know Craig's going to get that answer figured out for us, and whoever wins will hear that announced at the end. And we have a 3rd question, and Elaine, I'll get you while you're still on board to move to that one as well for us.
So could I just say though that we're kind of hoping that basic income could be like Medicare, that started in Saskatchewan first. And so we're really hoping that this province, the answer to which will be forthcoming, will be the Saskatchewan for basic income. And that, basic income will be like Medicare, the Medicare of the 21st century, something that we can't imagine living without. So
you can say the answer now because
I can say the answer now. Yeah. Okay, I'm thrilled to say the answer because it's Prince Edward Island. And I think we have a speaker shortly from Prince Edward Island, don't we? I think Marie Burge is here, so I'm excited. So do you want me to read the 3rd question too?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Oh, I get to read Senator Pate's question. So this book is dedicated to the courageous participants in Ontario's Basic Income Pilot Project. How many participants were there? So.
All right. Music. Very good. Well, there's a range of answers in the chat room from 300 to 4,000. So hopefully somebody nailed it. And the one who got it first will be at the top of that list. And Craig will announce that for us a little later on. And now I'd like to turn the spotlight on to Sheila Reguer. Sheila's the co-founder and chair of the Basic Income Canada Network. and she's here tonight as well. And she features in the book about, oh, I think it's 5 pages or so. Pretty good, Sheila. Way to go.
Thanks very much. I want to say too, like others have, that I feel so honored to have been part of this project. I want to talk a little bit about the book itself. I feel very privileged that I saw some earlier versions of major parts of this when it still had typos, questions. Is this the right answer? We need some more data here. And so I thought I sort of knew what the book was about. When I actually got my physical copy and in the mail and read it, I was just astounded. It cleaned up really well. And I think it's just a real tour de force. One of the things I really like, and maybe because my brain functions in strange ways, but I love the way it weaves together so many things. Like it manages to talk about politics and ideology, but in a way that doesn't feel heavy. It weaves in history, philosophy, psychology, along with human stories of all kinds. And I just think it's really brilliantly done, the way that all sort of comes together in the end. And I just thank you and Hamilton for arranging this party. I don't remember when I met Elaine and Jamie. I also don't remember when Elaine and I started signing off our emails with a glass of red wine, but we do.
I remember when we met, Sheila. You came to Kingston to talk to our basic income group, I think in about a year after we started in 2014.
That looks like white wine to me.
I ran out of the red, sorry.
Not very choosy. Thank you very much, Sheila, and thanks for your continued commitment on this front. Mike.
We're back here in Lindsay. The party keeps going. We've had music. I saw some people dancing. You know, there's been some wine, lots of people and fun stories, games. I kind of feel like I should be broadcasting from my kitchen. You know, as part of this ongoing party. As we approach the end of our time together, it's an honor to be able to introduce to everyone someone who's no stranger, Roderick Benz, a great basic income advocate. He is the publisher of a local publication that has really upped the bar in community journalism here locally in Kawartha Lakes. He's the author of a book himself, Basic Income, how a Canadian movement could change the world. And he's also president of the local Chamber of Commerce here. So Roderick, over to you.
Thanks, Mike. Jamie, Elaine, congratulations on your new and fabulous book. It's such an important addition to the body of work that we have. And I love how you journalistically captured real stories about real people. And I love the scholarly rigor that underpins everything. I still remember being in my dining room in Cambridge, laptop open, as we live streamed Premier Wynn's announcement on the location of those 3 basic income sites. I had recently left my job as senior writer in the Ministry of Education under Dr. Avis Glaze after nearly a decade of working there. And soon Jolie and I began collaborating on writing and researching about basic income, pushing municipal leaders especially to begin imagining what such a policy could do for their communities. We were over the moon to hear Lindsay, my hometown, had been chosen as one of the 3 pilot sites. So we took this as a sign and created a new media offering, as Mike mentioned, the Lindsay Advocate, a progressive, hopeful vision that would help push along the basic income dream while also reporting on other local news through a social wellness lens. In the heart of a conservative writing, we quickly found a loyal audience that had been too long silenced by the weight of a path-dependent neoliberal way of thinking. So Kathleen, I owe you a big thank you for being the spark that created the Advocate. And though we lost OBIP, and for a time the people lost hope, as so well chronicled in your book, Jamie and Elaine, we continue to carry that hope for them in our region. Thank you, Jamie and Elaine.
Great. Thank you so much, Roderick. Next, we have a couple of speakers they're the co-chairs of the Basic Income Canada Youth Network, Chloe Halpenny and Kendall David. And I saw them on Twitter today. They particularly resonated with the part where Tom Cooper and I were called the reluctant converts. So I don't know what they've got to say tonight, but welcome. And we're so glad that youth are part of this movement. Of course, it goes without saying how essential that is.
Thank you so much, Deirdre. Yeah, I'm really, really honored and feel really privileged to be joining tonight from Algonquin Anishinaabe land, colonially known as Ottawa. I have no page number. We'll have to have a separate conversation about that, Elaine and Jamie, but BICYN does. That's the Basic Income Canada Youth Network, which is the capacity in which I'm here tonight. I'm the co-chair and co-founder of that network, and we're a national network of young people that are dedicated to advocating for basic income. And we've been on the scene for much less time than the incredible folks on this call tonight, but I think it's fair to say that this network probably wouldn't have come to fruition in the way that it did if not for the fact that so many of us that are part of it have been animated through the cancellation of the Ontario pilot, and how angry and frustrated so many of us felt with that. And that includes me. Many of you on the call have heard my story or have helped with my master's research, which was on the Ontario pilot. And I started that uncertain, unsure, perhaps a reluctant convert, one might say, about basic income. And then I spoke with and heard from 26 people how this admittedly imperfect pilot fundamentally changed their lives for the better. And I say this not to focus on my own research, but to emphasize the power of stories like the ones that you've treated with such care in this book, Elaine and Jamie, in changing people's minds. And I think that's one of the most frustrating things about so much anti-poverty discourse is how easy it can be for some people to talk very theoretically and the statistics and, what do the theorists say about it? When you're speaking to this in a home with a mortgage and a yard and a car, it can be hard to forget about the lives of the real people who this affects on a daily basis. So thank you so much, Jamie and Elaine, for treating these stories with the respect, the sincerity, the care that they deserve but don't always get. And a huge congratulations on behalf of BICYN.
Great, thank you. You are speaking on behalf of Kendall. Okay, great. I am also introducing the next speaker because my new favorite thing to say is something that she said at our basic income vigil for the United Church of Canada. And that's a former senator and the former and first moderator of the United Church of Canada, Lois Wilson, who says, if you're going to light a candle, it's really quite useless unless you also get a pen and write your elected officials. I'd like to introduce Lois Wilson, the Reverend Lois Wilson. Unmute, and there we go. If you're going to light a candle, you have to unmute yourself. I think that's the other saying that we have there, Reverend Lois. There we are.
There we are. Well, it's quite a party, and I'm glad to be part of it. The United Church, most of the churches are great on passing resolutions about things and thinking something's going to happen. And the United Church did that for years on basic income and nothing happened. So we decided to try the network model. So we've gone to work and across the country, and we managed to we've got contacts all across the country now and in local congregations. And on April the 8th, we did an action across the country where all the members were invited to visit their MP and have conversations with their MP or their staff and have vigils outside their office. And there were about 50 of these happened, which sounds impressive, except there are 154 members of parliament. So we've only got 1/3 of the job done. However, we intend to keep at it. And this is only at the national level. We haven't even started on the provinces yet. I think that the Christian church has been largely responsible for fostering the stigma against the poor by promoting Christmas hampers and things like that. And it's time that that was laid to rest. And so we're working on that as well. We're also hoping to animate other faith communities, other Christian denominations, but also other faith communities in Canada. And that'll be our next thrust, I think. So thank you for the book, because that's going to be a huge resource for us, and particularly for people new to the whole concept. And as Kim Page says, or I guess it was Kathleen Wynne, we're going to continue to advocate. So count us in, and thanks for the invitation to be part of this tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Senator Wilson, and thank you for all you've done and all your work and tireless advocacy over the years. It's especially nice to see you again. We're going to throw the party over now to PEI, and we are joined now by Marie Burge. The word tireless has been used to describe Marie. She is one of the co-founders of the Cooper Institute in PEI, and a recipient of PEI's Medal of Merit. So Marie, on the East Coast, over to you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, please go
Okay.
ahead.
Well, I'm really surprised to be here. Anytime there's a gathering with mainly Ontario people, we don't expect PEI to be there. But our experience with this program, basic income, it has quite a long history. We began actually in 2003 as a basic PEI working group for livable income. And right from the beginning, right from 2003, we said, although we need to change the social programs that we have, we need to improve them, but the long-term response that we have to make is basic income. And in 2013, we took that doing really concrete advocacy for basic income really seriously, and we've been working on it since then. I have to say that one of our first experiences and an ongoing experience is that we went to the community, and we have a community where 40% of the people are either at the poverty line or in the risk of going below it. And so we went out and talked to the people. We presented what we thought would be a good idea. And the people told us, and these were ordinary community people in mainly rural areas, who said to us, it's about time. What we have isn't working. We're very poor. We remain in this situation. And that voice continues. And the interesting thing that we had as an organization, an advocacy organization, is that they corrected us and said, well, no, you really should not go in that direction. Back in those days, 2013, the people were already saying, we don't want a pilot. And that remains to this day, and a lot of people who are talking tonight know the history of why we are talking now about having programs which would have a sense of permanency. And that's what people said to us in 2014, that we need something that we know is going to last and that is not going to be dropped because a new premier comes. So the interesting thing is that right from the beginning in 2013, we got to know the Kingston Action Group, and we just fell in love with them. And I think it was mutual. We have had wonderful experience and learned a lot from that group. And out of that came the Coalition Canada Basic Income Revenue de Base, and which is a strong advocate for PEI having a guaranteed income, and which would be province-wide and fully funded jointly by federal and provincial funds. We haven't said that as strongly ourselves, but it's being said across the country. And we're committed to it because we think that because we can do it as a full province. We're only 155,000, and we could do it as a full province and have a really strong program that's an experimental one for the whole of Canada. And not that that is the only place. We'd like it to start in a number of provinces at the same time, but that at least that PEI has the capacity to do that as a full province and to do it as an experiment, not as a pilot. It's an experiment, and an experiment means that we learn as we go and we'll correct our mistakes as we go. And I'll just finish by saying that we have 4 political parties who have, agreed that this is the direction we should go. That does not mean political will. And we're really strong in our position that political will does not come from politicians. Political will comes from the people. And it's when the community speaks up and says, we have to go in this direction, that's when the political will be developed. And I'm really happy to be speaking and sharing with you from the unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people.
Thank you very much, Marie. Great inspirational words of wisdom to conclude as our time together approaches 8 o'clock. And Deirdre, the worst thing about a great party is all good things have to come to an end.
When we have the last speaker, it will come to an end, and that's Floyd Marinescu.
Oh, Floyd.
Hello.
Can't forget Floyd.
Great Scott, how could I forget Floyd?
Marie, I want to say thank you to you. And I just, for any Hamiltonians who think that the Cooper Institute is named after Tom Cooper from Hamilton, it's not the case. But the Cooper Institute does very important work in PEI. Thank you.
It's actually Bradley Cooper of Hollywood fame.
Jeez. All right. You can tell the time's coming to the end, but we do have one more speaker, one more book giveaway. And this is another great speaker in terms of where he comes from, like Roderick. Business. Who would think business people would be on board with a basic income? But it turns out that they are, many of them. So Floyd, please tell us about that. And welcome to our book launch. Wrap us up.
Thank you. I might wrap us up on a down note, but it's an.
Oh no! Mute him.
So yeah, I founded alongside business a nonprofit called UBI Works. You can learn more about what we're about. Just searching for that. To share the brief time I have, 3 things people need to know about technology and the impact on basic income. I can do it in 2 minutes, I promise. If you only remember one thing about technology's impact on poverty and on the job market, is that it creates more lower paying and lower quality jobs. We are seeing labor market polarization, the middle class going away as jobs are being replaced with increasingly lower pay and lower quality jobs. I read a report today about Ontario's retail and grocery industry showing how all the automation that happened with COVID is being replaced by jobs that are not customer facing, increasingly lower quality, not full-time delivery jobs that have no benefits and lower pay. This has happened. It happened in the 2000s to my dad and uncle in the manufacturing sector. So technology doesn't mean no jobs, it means low jobs. And that's what we should be afraid of, because we cannot have a democracy when only the top 20% of earners are seeing wage growth. And these are people with the highest education designing the systems or managing the systems that are being automated. So this is really scary. Technology shouldn't push people into low income work. It should free them to pursue their potential, including the potential to say no to poor paying and low quality jobs. You may be hearing, we're going to be hearing in Canada very soon, we've been hearing in the US about labor market shortages in retail and in the leisure and hospitality. Those are the lowest paying jobs. You know what the economic indicator of a labor shortage is? Fast wage growth. That's exactly what we want to see. And that's what basic income can deliver. People having the potential to pursue what's best for them, triggering what might be demonized as a shortage, which is actually an adjustment to a real free market where people are free to say no to bad jobs and be offered better pay. The second thing to remember about technology is this thing called the 4th Industrial Revolution. Basically means job disruption will be faster, 10 times faster than the past. But the one thing I want to take away from that is that the benefits of an industrial revolution on people's pay and disposable income don't usually show up until 1 or 2 generations later. It means we're not going to benefit from it. We may have better iPhones and technology, but people will be poorer in terms of their quality of life. So when people say that, oh yeah, eventually we'll have better jobs and it all works out. Yeah, but not for people who are suffering today, like the millions of people who lost their jobs in the manufacturing sector in the 2000s and are happening now. So basic income must be the first part of the solution. So at least people can pick themselves up and move ahead. In fact, if we passed a basic income in the late 60s, when it was last popular, that would have happened just before the computing and robotics revolution. A lot of people would not be in poverty today, including in Hamilton, if that had happened just in time for the third industrial revolution. And then the last thing I'll say, but not over time, is that this is the downer. These economic trends will intensify in the coming years because we're simultaneously going through this industrial revolution, a transition to a globalized workforce that includes internet-based jobs, like almost every job can be done in cheaper countries now, a financialization revolution, an ecological disaster. This will make the lives of most people worse. And in a few years, Elon Musk will press the button and the entire Tesla fleet will become self-driving competitors to taxis and Uber. And all these huge amounts of jobs will be disrupted very quickly. And we know what happens. If you want to understand the future, you need to accurately understand the present. And the present and the past decades show that technology is creating more low-income and low-quality jobs and disrupting the basis of believing that a job can be a way to get you ahead. So I'll try to leave it on an upper, I suppose, is that if we can do a basic income, this must be part of the solution. So it's not just about poverty, it's about a fair share of economic growth. It's about reconnecting economic growth to people's well-being. So that's why I don't usually advocate for basic income from a poverty lens. I advocate of it from a economic justice and getting a share of our growth lens. And so as technology moves humanity forward, basic income ensures we all move forward together. Thank you.
Thank you, Floyd. You got 3 pages in the book, so you could also end by thanking the authors.
Thank you very much. You took some of the most personal and vulnerable and stuff I was most proud of I've done in the last 2 years and put it in the book in 2 pages. So thank you, including the robot that was on stage at a political convention. I'll leave that little teaser in for everybody to read about it.
That's right. And if you have been teased enough to want to buy the book, it's floated through a couple of times. Maybe Craig will put it in one more time so it's right near the end before we leave. The link to Between the Lines books so that you could go and order a copy for yourself. And I see a few people have already ordered it. That's wonderful. And but there's one more chance to win a free book. And so Sheila Reguer, I'd ask you to give us the last quiz question.
So this is a real skill testing question of whether you were listening to Floyd or not. Here we go, true or false. People will not want to work if a basic income system is implemented.
There's the poll. Elaine, there we go. Did we get some? We got some answers. Good.
Okay, can I give the answer?
Yeah, you can give the answer.
It's Evelyn's answer. It's nonsense.
That's a good answer. I don't know why that wasn't an option up there. I guess they don't have the Zoom skills yet for that. Great. Sheila, as you get ready to leave, is there anything you would like to say to Jamie and Elaine? I know you already spoke. The last one up.
Yeah, I want to say thank you so much. And I really hope that this book is going to take us into the future because we're not coming out of COVID any better than we went in. I was reflecting on your comments earlier, Deirdre, when you started out talking about residential schools. We eventually grew up and realized that that was wrong. I hope our governments at some point are going to realize that our current system is wrong.
Yeah, great. Thank you. And there's Craig's picture, which means we have some winners' names.
Who else gets a free book tonight, Deirdre?
Yes, 3 more winners for question 2. answered correctly, Prince Edward Island, Kathleen Mather. I'm going to email you and get your address. For question 3, answered correctly at 4,000 participants, Tracy Wollershin. Congratulations. And finally, just now, for question 4, answering false to will people not want to work if on a basic income? Rick Beckers answered correctly. All of you, don't worry about having to type it in the chat or anything like that. I'm going to contact you and get your information, and we'll be mailing you those books. And yes, Mike, you will be getting the royalty from that. It is an actual purchase, so you don't have to worry about that.
Great.
Well, thanks very much, Craig, and congratulations to all our lucky and knowledgeable winners tonight. Quite the party, Deirdre.
It really was. And Jamie and Elaine, once again, you've given us reason not just to party tonight, but to hope that indeed the longings of the people that talk and advocate in your book and that will continue to use this book now, this book, page 70 to 72, if you're interested in a few good pages about reluctant converts.
Again, Deirdre, I missed it. Could you cite those numbers again?
71, 70, 71, 72. This book will be at many tables that we go to advocate, right? Hold up your book. That's right. And we'll take this along with us. And Jamie and Elaine, we are just so grateful for the effort that you put into this. And it's pandemic current. That's what I think is so powerful about it. You know, you were able to include the reality of the pandemic in this. So it is, it's so fresh. Thank you. Final words to the authors.
Jamie and Elaine, as the authors, thank you, as Deirdre was saying, for this new tool in our tool belt, this new arrow, in our arsenal as we continue to fight for basic income. Jamie, of course, you mentioned the left critique of basic income. Basic income, of course, though, still operating within a free market framework, lest us not forget. And just in closing, Deirdre also mentioned hope. And I want to thank all the brave participants of basic income, who not only endured, but stepped up to change their situation and actually go somewhere new by registering for the program. But that's where I get hope. I mean, there's a lot of trouble going on in the world for so many reasons right now. And it really is, I find, I'm sure you do too, that it's events like this with like-minded sisters and brothers and siblings that really act as an inspiration. And that's where I find my hope. So again, it's been an honor and privilege to co-host with you, Deirdre, and to EC everyone from across the country. And I wish everyone a very good night and stay healthy, please.
Great. Thanks.
Bye, everyone.
Take care. Jamie and Elaine, you're welcome to say you're welcome.
You're welcome. And thanks for everybody who sat through this hour and a half and missed their conventional supper hour. It was a great sacrifice for some who may be suffering from sclerosis of imagination, of putting off their dinner. So thank you for sticking with us.
Jamie, thank you too for using words I don't understand. That was very key. And also to Tom Cooper for his live tweets. We've had this party on multimedia platforms tonight. So thanks also to Tom for his social media savvy.
And thank you, Mike and Deirdre and Tom especially, and Craig especially, and all the wonderful panelists. Thank you all for coming.
Great. Okay, all the best, everyone. Elizabeth McGuire, the chair of the Campaign for Adequate Welfare and Disability Benefits, says that in the chat room that she's hungry. It must be time to go. Here's to a basic income in the future. Keep up the good work.
It's a wrap, folks. Get the book.